the Public Affairs Forum of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin, Texas. My name is Luther Elmore. Every Sunday we hold these public affairs discussions from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and you're cordially invited to join us here at our location, 4700 Grover Avenue in North Central Austin. We have been conducting these affairs since this church was incorporated in 1954, and we do it to serve the mission of the church. That is, to nourish souls, transform lives, and do justice. If you need information about the forums, then please go to our church website, austinuu.org. Our discussion today will be about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a period of question and answers. Our presenter today is one of the activists and important people in our community, Ms. Simone Talma Flowers. Originally, she came to Texas as a student to attend St. Edward's University. She then began to work as a volunteer for Interfaith Action of Central Texas, and in 2013 became its executive director. We're familiar with Interfaith Action of Texas as we participate in many of their actions, and we normally refer to them merely as IAC. The goal of that is something that is near and dear to Ms. Flowers' heart. As it notes in your flyer, people of all faiths doing good together. That is her goal, and we welcome her with us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. So as Luther said, I'm Simone Talma Flowers, and I'm with Interfaith Action of Central Texas, commonly known as IACT, and our mission is to cultivate peace and respect through interfaith dialogue, service, and celebration. So pretty much everyone has a brochure, and on that brochure, that flower, look at it closely. It's not a flower. It's people holding hands, interlocking with each other. And that is what we do. We bring people of all faiths, of all cultures together to interlock with each other, to stand side by side, to be in unity. So I can tell you, we can trace our roots back to the 1940s, when some local pastors came together to say that how collectively they can make a difference if they work together. So many of them met informally throughout the years, and many of them were members of the Austin Conference of Churches as well as Metro Ministries. And then they realized that there was something missing with both organizations, and that was the service component. So both organizations dissolved and put all their assets in what we know as Interfaith Action of Central Texas today. Back then, in 1988, it was Austin Metropolitan Ministries, and then it became Austin Area Interreligious Ministries, and now, today, and we're Interfaith Action of Central Texas. And part of that, too, is to respond to the ever-changing geographic and demographic changes of our time. So IAC, we like to say we are ever evolving and always learning and always expanding. And when you think about welcoming and embracing others, that is what it's really about. So back to service, the service piece, as far as that being central to our mission, is that we realize that to bring people together, people connect differently and they relate differently. So we have to be able to provide opportunities where people can connect through service, having an action of something to do. And many of y'all are familiar with our Hands on Housing program, which repairs homes for low-income homeowners and people with disabilities. And that by itself, is powerful, because everyone knows the need to be in a safe home, to have a roof over your head, to have shelter, to lay your head at night. No one can dispute that. And we want to make sure people can be safe. So for the Hands on Housing program, is people bringing people of different faiths to work together to repair homes, and with all the different city permits, and so we have been able to kind of narrow the focus a little bit more, so we have to do minor repairs to just streamline the permitting process. But the whole idea of bringing people together from different congregations and different organizations and individuals to work side by side, that is still core of what we do. And then the other service program that we do is working with refugees newly arrived here in Austin. And as you know, with the current world affairs and what's happening in our nation, sometimes, providing a welcoming place is just so important, because people need to have a place of refuge. They need to be able to know that they're welcomed and accepted and belong. So we teach English as a second language. And why English is a second language? How are you going to communicate with each other if you don't know the language? So one of the things that we felt is that teaching English so that people can at least know how to interact with each other, be able to navigate the community and be able to just to connect, that's just survival here. And we wanted to make sure and provide that support to refugees here in this community. And again, we bring different congregations and different organizations together to make that happen. The other piece that we do too is our Interfaith Thanksgiving service. Many of you all may know that. This is going to be like the 33rd year of us doing the Interfaith service. And it's bringing people of all faiths, all cultures together to give thanks in their own tradition. So you may have a Muslim call to prayer or a Jewish call to prayer, and songs, dance, maybe a Hindu dance, or prayers from different Christian faiths too. So it's a great way of showcasing how people give thanks, and it's a beautiful experience. For the past few years, we've been having it primarily in East Austin, because it took us 30 years to get to East Austin to be an African American congregation. And we wanted to make sure that we plant seeds and grow it, because that's what it's all about, growing relationships. So this year, we're still working on where we're going to be. So we back out into the different parts of the community. So we're pretty excited about forming new relationships there. The other thing too that we do is our red bench conversations. And we've had a red bench conversation here in this congregation, but it's another way of going out into the community and being at different places of worship. And this way it gets people to come to different sacred spaces and be in that space. So the red bench is our interfaith dialogue, and it's about sitting with each other, knowing that we're different, knowing that we believe different things, but yet with that intention that we will sit together and try to have a deeper understanding of each other. It's a very structured conversation, and part of that structure is to build trust and to build a space where people can speak their own truth. And I'm going to come back to that, because that's really, really important when we're talking about welcoming, being a welcoming community and engaging others. So with the red bench, we usually focus on universal virtues, forgiveness, compassion, gratitude, and we also hit on current issues, say like racial intolerance, religious intolerance, privilege. And some years ago, I would say this was the largest red bench we've ever had, and it was the Fair of Islam. So the spaces that we provide here for the red bench, it's really about people speaking their own truth. Not that you're trying to convince anybody or persuade anybody in one way or the other. It's just creating that space where we can listen to each other. And that's what it's really about. It's listening to who you're with. And then we just started a new program, and it is the Interfaith Passport program. And this is something, actually, it's like a relaunch, because we did this about 10 years ago. and we had to put it on hold, and we just started it back. And this is an opportunity where we go to different congregations. This year, well, it's 12. Every month we go to a different congregation, and we just visit. We are visitors. And half hour before the service, we'll have a pre-service meeting, and at that meeting, we will learn, one, the basic tenets of the faith, a little bit about the congregation we're visiting, and then, 3, what to expect during service. Because a lot of times when you visit churches or houses of worship, you need to know what's going on. Because they're so different. So this way it just eases you into it. And that has been such a wonderful experience because so many people are curious. They want to go, but they don't want to go alone. And so here it is, you're going with a group of people to visit different places. In May, our next visit would be at the Buddhist Temple of the 360. So I highly encourage everyone to attend. And then in June, we will visit a mosque, the Mena Mosque. And in July, we go to the Mormons, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on Parker Lane. So next year, we want to make sure this congregation is on this list for the 2018 destination. So let's make that happen, okay? So I want to go ahead and just show a little video about IAC because it kind of sums up everything that I just said, excluding the passport program since it's so new. So can we go ahead and start the video? IACT is Interfaith Action of Central Texas. IACT's mission is to cultivate peace and respect through interfaith dialogue, service, and celebration. And the 3 programs are our expression of the way we cultivate peace and respect. We have about 10 Red Bench programs throughout the year, and we bring people of different faiths together to have a conversation that matters.
Red Bench for me, it's a chance to really connect with people, and the thing that I love about it is it slows everything down so you can really listen to another person and hear what they're saying. You have a chance to speak your own truth and you're deeply heard. And those are things that, they just don't happen every day.
It's the basis of community, building trust, openness, love, acceptance, understanding.
Our refugee program teaches English instruction to newly arrived refugees who come here to Austin. We give them the basic fundamental skills so that they can be able to live on their own and live the lives that they want to live here.
I come here, I know read English, I know write, I know talking. Now I read and talking with other people.
I feel confident now.
Hands-on Housing is a housing repair program where we bring people of different faiths, people from different communities to repair homes for low-income homeowners, primarily the elderly and people who live with disabilities.
How Hands-on Housing fits in is that we have all these contractors that trust us and love us, and we have all these homeowners that trust us and love us, but without us, they don't trust and love each other. It just gives them something to be proud of, something to show off.
They won't forget us, and we won't forget them.
It's through being able to connect with someone that you get to see the value of each other, the value that each other brings to this society, and how each person plays a role, each community plays a role in helping this, our great city, Austin, become a stronger, more welcoming place. In my belief, one of the simplest, most effective tools that we have for peace. So I want to address a few things in regards to successes with working with the interfaith community and why we've probably been in business doing this work for a long time. And I would say one of the reasons is when we ask that question, why do we do this work? And we have to be really clear about why we do this work, because we can be in many different directions. So the question is, how do we bring people together? And how do we convene? How can we be that conduit that connects people of all faiths, of all cultures, together? And for us, again, it is through service. We said how service is a great way. It's through dialogue. It's through celebration, such as the Thanksgiving service. And with the Passport program, is bringing people together to different faiths. And that's the basis behind everything. It's all about connecting. It's all about how do we break down those barriers that divide us. And that's really clear for us because that's what we do. So, again, we can be in all these different directions, but that's our focus. Because we have a lot of groups do, with environmental work. That's their niche. We have legislative work. Texas Impact, that's their niche. So, and then IACT, it's about relationship building among different communities. So when we bring people together, our hope is to just keep providing these different platforms. And then when we connect with each other, people go off and develop the relationships with each other. So we're not into the management of their relationships, but we are keep bringing them together. And that is really important for us to differentiate, because it's all these connecting pieces. And that's what we'll continue doing, is providing these opportunities. And then the other thing too, because you have so many people, I would say, and I'm not too sure at what point does this happen, especially with young kids. Young people are very curious, very, very curious about the other, always wanting to learn. And at what point in time does that curiosity turn into fear of the other? And so we live in a culture here where we have so many people fearful of the other. And to come to any of the programs that we have, that's something that we have to be really clear with, is that it's a place where you can be welcomed, regardless wherever you are. And it's a place where you can be yourself. And I used to say, and I keep, Dr. Reddick from UT keeps saying, stop saying that word. I used to say, it's a safe place to be. And he's like, no, it's it's a brave place to be. So for others who are different and want to be in that space, I say, in following his language, it's a place where you can be who you are. You can be brave and you can speak your own truth. So that's the common goal in all the things that we do. We want to make sure it's a place where people feel comfortable. And the way that happens is through consistency and structure. And that's why when we do our Red Bench programs, it's very structured. It's the same thing every single time. That structure does not change. And it's a way where I would say everything coming in, that you're sitting on next to people who totally believe something different than you. But your goal is not to change their mind. You're not there to persuade them. You're not there to fix them. You're there to just listen and give them attention. And it kind of comes back to that piece where when you think of human nature, people want to know that you see them. People want to know that you hear them. And people want to know that you value them. So that by itself too, understanding those three things help create a welcoming environment too. So again, it's like keeping that mantra in everything that we do, and making sure people know that they're respected and they're valued. Those are some simple, basic ways of making sure it's a welcoming community. And then I would say I mentioned the consistency. And then the other thing too, in working with an interfaith community too, is when I mention respect, is knowing who you're working with. No matter what we do, we have to look at the interfaith calendar. When we set dates for events, that's our determining factor when to have things. Because so many times, by setting dates and setting times, you unintentionally exclude people. And if that happens, you have to make sure you either say, okay, this was the only date, or this, I'm choosing this, but I know this, another holy day is happening here, but this is the only time we can do it. But you have to have that understanding coming in before you make any major decisions. And I think that also helps build relationships and build trust too with others, because they know that you're considering them. You are making sure that they're included and trying your best to make sure they're included. And you know, we've been in the business a long time. We have made many mistakes along the way. So we just know from that era never to make any calendar and decisions before looking at the interfaith calendar. And Saturday events, especially, you know, when you do a Saturday event, you not including the Jewish community, unless it's after dark. So those are considerations, especially weekend events, Saturday and Sunday. So they can be a part of both days. And I would say too, it is really important in even in our organizing of different events to include a diverse group, because you have different viewpoints and different faiths, different cultures, just different experiences, and people bring their gifts with them. So to have a diverse group in your planning committees is always helpful. And for us, it has just made our programming a lot more effective and more impactful. So, and that's part of the welcoming. When people know that they participate from the beginning, it has an ownership. They have an ownership in the work, and they want to make sure it succeeds. So that's a way that I would say, again, do what we can to involve as many people as possible on your planning for events. And then also too, what I do know is that people love their synagogue, they love their mosque, they love their church, they love their space, their home, I like to call it. And having activities during that time makes it kind of difficult for them to make that decision. Should I come here or should I stay home in my congregation? So having events outside of that helps with more participation. Because Sundays are still the most segregated day of the week. And we will do a lot of work to make sure it's more diverse, but people like where they are. And that's okay. That's okay. And I think it's just ways of providing opportunities, maybe once in a while, but not all the time, to just engage different groups. And one other thing too that I would say, as far as bringing more people in, having more welcoming opportunities, is for faith leaders to have an opportunity to visit and speak and participate. And that also means you going there too, to their different congregations, you being present, you participating in their events. That is a huge thing for us to be present, because so many people love you to be involved in what they're doing. So that's another aspect of successes in interfaith work, being present, showing up, showing up for their causes. That I can't emphasize how important that is. And then when we talk about challenges in working with interfaith, again, back to that calendar. That calendar it's huge. It's one of those things that you just have to look at. And it may seem simple, but you would not believe how many times people just go, I'm going to do this, and don't look at that calendar, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is like Christmas in this faith. Of course they're not going to show up, because this is a huge, huge sacred time. And when people know that you're honoring their sacred time, it makes a world of difference. Okay. And then I would say, again, things that you can do to, other challenges in working with the interfaith community is, again, being clear as to why you want to work with them. Why? Be clear. Is it to build community? Is that to have a greater understanding of each other? Is that to make sure people understand a certain issue more clearly? So define that, because that helps a great deal. If they know exactly where you're coming from and what this is about, it's easier. It's easier to work with, because everyone has a lot of different things going on in their lives and in their communities, and having a clear message about the intention, the purpose, is very powerful and would allow people to want to engage more. And the thing is to, again, people want you to show up. So if you're asking them to come to your events, make sure you go to theirs. Make sure they see you. And also to, again, what advice for congregations? When you think about relationships, when you think about your own relationships with friends, and what you do to manage your friendships, to engage others, it's kind of similar principles. That it needs tending to. So again, showing up, calling, asking for advice, asking for support. These are ways of just keeping those connections going. And it's not a one-time affair. It is continuous. And you can look at it as work or you can look at it as opportunity. But it's all about relational. It's relational. And that's kind of sums up some of the successes, challenges, and advice that I would give to any questions, because I summarized it real quickly.
You referred to several of the programs of IACT, and so initially, do you know, just like your brochure says that 1,000 show up for the Thanksgiving service, and I participated in the hands-on housing, in which hundreds participate in that for the various projects. How many congregations and individuals participate in the various programs of IACT, say, in a year, or do you keep any statistics like that?
We do, especially with different programs too, but I would say combined, it could be anywhere from maybe about 60 different congregations, and individuals, it could be, I would say, about a couple thousand people or more. Yeah, the thing is we have so many different groups, so many different organizations, so many different student-led organizations too, and congregations participating at different times and different ways. But the whole goal is to try to make sure they plugged into what is their passion. Many people are strong hands in housing supporters, and they wouldn't necessarily volunteer with the refugee program. And many would participate in a Thanksgiving service. And as we try to connect more with each other, where hands on housing volunteers can also participate with refugees, and same thing, refugee volunteers can also participate with hands on housing, and having it more interconnected. I mean, we do understand, well, that's why we created all these, is because different things resonate with different people, and we just want to make sure we have these different opportunities for wherever people are at. Yeah.
All right, thank you. If others of you have questions, then please raise your hand and I'll come by, and so that Ms. Flowers can address your questions.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Grimminger, and I just want to thank you so much for coming out and speaking with us today.
Thank you, Carolyn.
If I could be a little bit nosy,
Go
I'd
right
love
ahead.
to hear about your story. I'd love to hear about your background, whatever you'd like to speak on that, and then how you got involved in interfaith work.
So I like to say that my story has become the typical Austin story, okay? In the sense that I came here to Austin. I'm originally from Trinidad. I came here as a foreign student. I went to St. Edward's University. And then after I graduated, I was like, I want to stay here. So I've been here since. So I've spent more than half my life here in Austin than in Trinidad. But the thing is, the formative years growing up in Trinidad, it never leaves you. It is with you all the time. So in Trinidad, it's a very cosmopolitan community. So growing up, I can go through the day, or no one can go through the day without interacting with someone who's different, someone who's Hindu, someone who's Muslim, and the whole spectrum of the different Christian faiths, because we have many, many different Christian faiths in Trinidad, and just culture. So you learn an appreciation of diversity at a young age. And when I think back, family memories, one thing that I remember, and this is a case in point, is Diwali. My whole family would go, it was 5 kids, my parents, And we would go traveling through the little villages in Trinidad to look at all the lights at Diwali. And that is one of the precious memories I have of growing up. So it involves so many other faiths, so many other cultures, and it's just part of who I am. So that, I say that because that has infused, that's just a part of me, and that's how I see my world today. And that's why I do what I do, because there is so much beauty in who we are and what we bring to this world that I feel as though we miss out and when we don't participate and when we don't welcome others. Because you're not going to get the opportunity to see all the great things that they have and all the great things that they have to share with us if we're not a welcoming place. And something else too, recently, when we think of funerals and death, I think of how different faith traditions and cultures celebrate it too, because it's that whole passage of the cycle of life. And one thing too that I remember greatly too about Trinidad is how they celebrate death. And I think about, I have this visual in my head of, it's close to the ocean and it's a hill overlooking the ocean, and on this hill is like steps, and on each step, and especially Hindu tradition, they do cremations, and there are stacks of wood, which makes the cremation site, and there could be different funerals going on at the same time. But that was like a daily thing that I saw every day. So it was, you look at it and it's like, wow. And at the same time, it was just part of our life. So and to me, it's a richness that different groups bring. And so it just started an appreciation of others from a very early age. And as I said, when I came here, I felt as though, especially Austin, we are a growing international city, and we have all these people, all these differences to share with each other. And we just need to have some platforms where we can connect. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I have about 3 questions. One is, do you have to be a refugee to use your ESL services?
So, not fully. Our ESL services are designed for refugees and asylees or victims of trafficking. And why we focus on refugees is that there are a lot of classes here in the community that are focused on Spanish-speaking people, and which is great. There's plentiful, but not many focus on refugees. And with refugees, there's so many different issues around it. Because here it is, refugees, they are fleeing persecution. Is a special definition that refugees, they are fleeing persecution, political, religious. And when they come here, they only have a specific amount of time to be able to learn English before they have to go out and find jobs. So it's really targeted for them to have this programming within a certain period of time so that they can go out, find jobs, because with the resettlement agencies here in town, we have Caritas of Austin and Refugee Services of Texas, they're only given like 3 months to get all this done. I don't know about you, but it has taken me a lifetime to learn Spanish, okay? And to know that refugees have 3 months to learn English, that is just totally unreasonable. But yet we teach survival English so that they can at least know how to communicate to catch a bus, communicate with their doctors, communicate with their employers, be able to do an application, just so that they can get by during the day. And that without English, it's really difficult to have any kind of upward mobility in a job. So even though we stress the first few months, refugees still have 5 years to be with us in our program. So that's why we have to just kind of focus on them. That's our priority. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You answered.
Okay. You had a couple others too?
No, basically it was the definition of what a refugee is for your program, and you told me. So.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm Judy Appelt-Musil. First, I want to thank Carol and Carol for their questions. You were wonderfully informative there. You mentioned that in the Red Bench program you have the same structure for everyone. Can you be more specific? What is that structure?
Okay, so let me tell you the structure. So for the Red Bench, again, consistency is really important. So we have the structure rests around, so it could be a room full, maybe 100 people in a room. And each table, we have a table of maybe about 8 people at a table. And each table is led by a table host. And this table host follows a structure for the conversation. So this structure, how this structure works is it's in 4 rounds. Like the first round will be, my name is, and my faith tradition. That's how you introduce yourself. Then the second round would be, what are my viewpoints, or what are my beliefs on this specific topic? And during this time, we have this stone, and everybody holds, only the person that speaks holds the stone. And before the conversation starts, you have to follow the conversation agreements, which is, you're not going to talk over someone. You're going to suspend judgment. You're going to be brief in your talking. You're going to speak your own truth and not speak for others. And I'm trying to remember the others. But anyway, some basic agreements to be able to have a successful conversation. And then, so you hold the talking piece, only one person speaks at a time, no interrupting. And so the table host just guides the conversation. And we say table host, and we say conversation. They're not moderators, they're not facilitators, they host because they participate in the conversation. And then the third round is what we call the spirited dialogue, or the heart of the matter. And this is where you put the stones down, and you get to ask someone around the table questions, or you get to expand on what you said, and this is where the dialogue happens. And after that, that's about maybe 30 minutes or so, and then we close, and then we go into the 4th round. And the 4th round, again, we get back with the stone, hold the stone, one person speaks at a time, and you bring the conversation to a satisfying close to you. And that's the structure. And and with that, in that short period of time, I would say you get to connect with some people at the heart, at a level that you would normally take months to connect with someone. And that's because it's just so focused on the topic at hand, which may be gratitude, which may be forgiveness, which may be compassion. And what is so powerful about it is that you're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about gratitude that way. Oh my gosh, I didn't think about gratitude that way. And it's like, however many people at that table is 8 different ways of thinking about gratitude, or 8 different ways of thinking about compassion, or 8 different ways of thinking about forgiveness. And that's the power. It's like, oh, it's beyond my own thinking, my own thoughts. Oh, okay, I'm being open to something that's different. And that's the power behind the red bench. And that's the power behind the consistency and the structure, which makes you brave, makes you courageous to speak your truth.
That with the current political climate, you're talking about inclusion and acceptance and tolerance. The current political climate, some individuals and organizations seem to want to highlight those differences instead of bringing those people together. Has this increasingly hostile climate in some quarters, has that impacted your work, and has it made it any easier or harder as far as you know?
I would say we have had such an outpouring of people wanting to connect with us. We have had the highest numbers ever of volunteerism within our refugee program. We have had people just wanting to support the organization. And I think, too, we react, right? We react when it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Somebody would say this or they would do that. And the thing is, hospitality and welcoming happens every day. And the power of being kind, the power of being compassionate to our neighbors is something that we all can do in our daily lives. And I think that's something that we always have to keep reminding others. It doesn't mean that on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, that's the only time that you do this, okay? Or you have that power to do it all the time. To not be a bystander, to speak up, to say, if somebody says something negative, well, that's not my experience. This is my experience. And I think that power of welcoming and inclusion, that's what that entails too.
I'm Wendy Reisman, and I'm the Social Action Chair here at First UU. We have a lot of parents who are really interested in having their children learn about other faiths and other cultures, and I'm wondering what you think are some good ways for parents to involve their children in interfaith work, whether it's with IACT or with other organizations.
One simple way too is visiting different congregations or bringing in different faith leaders or people from different faiths to come to the congregation and talk to the kids too, where it can be a space where they can ask any question. Because one thing I know is that people are curious. Even though the fear may be there, they're still curious. They still want to know. And the thing is, and sometimes they're just embarrassed us. So how do we create that space where it's okay, where we can just diffuse that fear? So that's something that I would encourage. And just visit to different, as I said, different congregations, different cultural events, and within their own schools too, I would say have that celebration of diversity, because I tell you what, every month there's something going on. There's some different faith, some different culture have something that they celebrate. And it's like, how can we celebrate who people are among us? And that kind of it does two things. One, it kind of puts some focus on a different culture and a different person and says, oh, you are important that we're taking this time to do this. You are important. So that makes that particular culture, that faith, feel, oh my gosh, I'm being seen, I'm being heard, I'm being valued. And it also allows others to say, oh my gosh, I'm learning something different. Okay, that's not what I thought they were, or whatever. It just breaks down any kind of misconceptions too. And it's a win-win situation. And in this day and age, the more that we can connect with each other and not be fearful, the better off we are. Yeah.
Hi, Carolyn again. I overheard on KET this morning that there's an event coming up this Tuesday night. Could you share with us about that?
Right. So every year we do this, is our largest fundraiser. It's called the Hope Awards. And every year we focus on people in our community who have put hope into action. This year we are focusing on refugees, on people and organizations in our community who have gone above and beyond to welcome refugees. And our theme is called Celebrating a Place of Refuge. So this year we are honoring the Austin Independent School District and highlighting some of the schools and programs that have gone above and beyond to welcome refugees, such as DOS, Merkinson, the International School, and even the Parent Support Specialists for Refugees. And then we're also honoring the Bullock Texas State Museum. Every year, for the past 8 years, they have been hosting World Refugee Day. And it has just been a beautiful experience where refugees, no matter where they come from, that's their day. We celebrate them. And they come adorned in their native wear. And the pride that we see that day is just amazing. It's heartwarming. And then we're also honoring a volunteer. She started off in high school working with our refugees in the refugee program, and she's now in college, and she has just given so much. And we just wanted to honor our young people because their hearts are just so big and so open, and we wanted to make sure and do that. And then we're also honoring a Glimmer of Hope Foundation because every year they allow all the refugee kids that are in our program to come to Camp Glimmer. And these maybe 2-3 days where they just get to be kids. They can just be a child, play with water, do some hiking, arts and craft. They just get to be kids for just that time, nothing else. No adults. They can just forget about whatever issues that they may be remembering or so. Just be a child, just for those times. Because that's a whole other thing. With refugee kids, they have been through so much. They have seen things that many of us adults can't even imagine experiencing. And they're so young. And we just want them to be kids for a short period. And then also to, I would say, the last one is St. John's United Methodist Church. They come out pretty much about 4 times a year and support the organization in so many other different ways, but they work a lot with the refugees too, in providing lunches and just kids peer support too. So yeah, so those are the honorees that we're having this coming Tuesday, and it's at the Bullock Texas State Museum. So if anybody wants to come on. We have a whole evening, a beautiful evening prepared.
With the organization being decades old, and this would certainly predate you, but how has the organization's activities and focus changed during that 30 or 40 years?
I would say IAC has been an incubator for many different organizations and has just been involved in so many local issues. Homelessness is huge for us. I think we help support the ARC, and then the care communities, which was called Interfaith Care Alliance. That was one of our programs that spinned off to a whole new organization. So we have been involved with the Community Advancement Network, or previously it was Community Action Network, CAN, since its inception. So for us, we have made sure and stayed connected in different aspects of the community so that we can have that faith voice in different conversations and just be at the table for different issues that come up in our community. But with everything else, we are about humanity, about how do we care for each other? How do we remember the people down the street? How do we remember the marginalized and support them? So, because so many congregations, so many faith groups, so many organizations want to know that they're doing good. They want to know that their shared compassion can be harnessed to do good in the community. And that's what we do. We help make sure we connect to make it happen also. And our work is all about collaboration. Everything, we literally cannot do our work without the support of others, other groups.
How do you manage your public relations and try to get your word out to the community for a greater impact?
Well, that's something that we always try to work hard on, and we always need lots of support on. So many times we have, we definitely send out press releases. Facebook is huge. We spend a lot of time on Facebook. We send a lot of notices to the community events and do some PSAs, but we also depend on congregations and different organizations to share what's happening with us. So congregations, organizations, we are still heavily dependent.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but what do you see as the future for IACT and other programs you might become involved in?
So, again, peace and working towards peace is just not a nice thing to do. It's a necessary thing to do. And that's something that we always have to remember. So for us, we will continue looking at ways to bring us together, to provide opportunities where people can connect so that they know that we're not alone. We are in this together. And together is what's going to save us all.
For those of you who have not been here today, then I would invite you to go to IACT's website, interfaithtexas.org, and we thank Ms. Flowers for her presentation today and for her work, as indeed we continue to try to do good together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.